Doesn't it just feel like you're going to a party anytime you hear that music now? Yep, it's a brand new Village Vice. Zach Blackerby over there. I'm Brad Law. And look, folks, this is the way it is going forward. I'm on the left. Zach is on the right. We can all settle in and accept it. Been a while since, been a few days anyway, since we were with you. Since then, Zach, Auburn got a big-time in-state running back commitment. They added a defensive back. This is the time of the year for recruiting talk. It's almost like Christmas Day. Like you get one bit of news and you're like, okay, that's cool. Oh, there's another gift to open. There's another bit of news. And you're looking around to see what else is under the tree.
Yeah, you don't know exactly when you're going to be able to get that next gift, but you do know it's coming, which is encouraging. And I guess also to keep this parallel going, you hope the sibling doesn't come over and take your gift, right? You hope you get to keep everything that you've accumulated over the course of Christmas morning. It's fun. It's fun. And we've talked about how important recruiting is to this staff and how much they've made it a priority. And this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like, where Auburn's going to be in a situation to have 20-ish commits to start the season. That's uncharted territory. This is new waters for Auburn fans, and it's been a blast. It's been a blast just talking to folks within the program. I mean, I think they're expecting 5 or 6 more in July. Now, I think some of those will be 2026 guys, but still, I mean, just incredible what they've done so far.
Yeah, and that's important to this conversation. I kind of feel like we want to remind folks, if you have followed recruiting, if it's kind of been a thing that you follow closely and you've done it for a while, then you know there may be a couple of guys that are committed elsewhere that flip to Auburn. This hasn't really happened much, but there may be a guy or two on the list right now for Auburn that ultimately flip and go somewhere else. Again, it hasn't happened that much with this staff, but it's at least possible. And it's important to keep that in mind. Sure. There also may be guys that you read about and you follow for a while, and all of a sudden, whether it's because there are other guys at that position or what have you, that, you know, Auburn backs off of, and then they go elsewhere. It's all part of the natural ebb and flow. The waves come in, the waves go back out. That's part of recruiting, especially this time of year.
Yeah, I think so. And the fact of the matter is that we've seen this right when Freeze got here, is they're always going to be in it with a few names. Even with guys that they started so far behind on, they're always going to be in it. And I think we're really going to see that come to fruition in the 2026 class. But, I mean, we're getting a pretty good snapshot of that for this class as well.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to start the discussion with that point. And Zach has done such a great job on his show, Locked on Auburn, of breaking down the latest commitment. And it's been a couple days again since we've been with you, and encourage you to go watch those shows if you haven't yet. But I want to take a little bit of a big picture view. You've got Oklahoma and Texas getting ready to join the league officially in now less than a week. So you've also got the expanded playoff. You have no more divisions in the SEC. So I wanted Zach to talk a little bit about what the SEC looks like, not just in 2024, but beyond, like the next 5 to 10 years in the league, and ask the question, is Auburn positioning itself to be among the top 4 in the SEC? Because I think if you're one of the top 4 consistently in the league, maybe top 5 consistently, then you're in the playoff discussion. You at least have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Most, if not every season. Is that fair to say? Top 4 or 5 in the league, you're at least in a discussion?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's going to be years where 4 SEC teams make it in this new expanded playoff. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah.
To say. Is Auburn in position to do that? Yes, but it's going to take time.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of folks out there say recruiting's not everything, and that's true, but it's probably 90%. I mean, it's a lot.
Most of it.
It's a lot of it. Yeah, it's like the team that has the higher recruiting rankings wins like 87% of the time or something crazy like that. And some of those variables, that 13%, I do think Auburn possesses that, like Jordan-Hare Stadium and, you know, home field advantage and a fan base that travels. Like, I think Auburn's set up to do that outside of it. So last year, the 2024 class, Auburn was the 5th ranked team in the SEC. Right now, when you look at the 2025 class, they're ranked as high as the 4th team in the SEC, and I think on 247 they're actually higher than that, but we'll see. No, they're not, because Georgia jumped them because of yeah. So, and then in 2026, I mean, I think Auburn's going to end up with a top 5 class again. So I think you just look at it and say, okay, well, if you've got 4 years in a row where you're a top 8 to 5 class nationally, and you're a top 4 class within your conference, yes, you certainly have a chance to be a top 4 team, at least a top 4 roster in your conference.
Yeah, and I love that you started with that. Are those the On3 team rankings, by the way? Is that what you're going with?
The industry rankings for On3, the average everybody's. Yep.
There are 3 teams right now that have, if you count 23, 24, 25, using the On3 rankings, 3 teams that have been top 4 in the league all 3 of those years. The third one may surprise you. Like, Georgia and Alabama have been there. Do you know who the third is?
I would assume you're talking about rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume LSU.
Yeah, it's LSU, and I think that's
fascinating.
Are
you counting Texas pre-SEC?
Texas right now is not in the top 4 in the 25 class rankings.
Okay,
so that's the only reason. Yeah, if you go back to 23, Texas would be 3rd.
Okay,
and Oklahoma would be 5th.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think we all assume Georgia and Texas are going to be in the top 4 in the SEC for the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Would you disagree with that?
No.
Okay. I love this. I kind of wish we had the old school, like the old radio format with call-ins, or that we were live with. This is a really good interactive conversation. I look forward to the comments as we go after this show's posted. Alabama, there are questions. They're not going to stay at the same height that they have been. They can't. It's not possible. Forget it. But do they fall out of the top 4 in the league?
Probably not.
That's the question. Like, are they willing to make their identity the school and not the head coach? If they do that, they can stay in the top 4. What about LSU? We always talk about the talent richness of the state of Louisiana. Brian Kelly, though, is the oldest coach in the SEC. How long?
Really?
Yes. 62 years old. He's the oldest coach in the league.
How about that? I had no idea.
Yeah.
How interesting. 62 is the oldest in the league now.
That's correct.
Dang. Okay.
And for all the doubters, he's done a fine job at LSU.
Oh, I think he has vastly exceeded my expectations at LSU. Yeah.
So if you're going to be in the top 4 of the league, you're going to need to be able to hang with Georgia and Texas in recruiting, and then also on the field. You're going to need Alabama to slip a little bit. You're going to try to outdo or overcome LSU. Can Florida turn things around? Is Tennessee going to continue to recruit at a high level? They had the 4th best class in the league in 23. They've fallen off a little bit. So, it's not a given, but I think Auburn is on a path. That's why that 26 class is also worth following now. To continue to ascend in recruiting usually leads to ascending on the field. So they've got to keep doing that.
Right. And I mean, they're doing things the right way. We've got 1 year of on-field kind of eye test experience of Freeze, and it wasn't good enough. And they know it wasn't good enough. And so they made the proper changes that could lead to more wins. The debate is how many more wins that amongst the Auburn fan base and throughout college football. And, we'll see what it looks like 2 years from now, because I think that's really what they're focused on.
Yeah. Are there other teams that we haven't talked about, like Oklahoma? I don't know about Oklahoma. I think Texas is far more poised than Oklahoma to succeed in the SEC. Are there teams that we're not talking about that could potentially climb up into that space? Well, let's talk about that after I tell you a little more about our friends at Rowack. Not one time do I wear my Rowack gear that somebody doesn't say something about the shirt. It gets people's attention. It's comfortable, looks nice, feels great. And right now you can get a polo just like this, or maybe a little wilder, out of the box design. You can search all those designs at rowack.com, and whatever you want, you can get 20% off at rowack.com by using our code VICE20, VICE20. Is it a little more expensive, even with the code, than a shirt that you'd get, at a big box store? Or yeah, I guess, but it's worth it. Believe me, if you've ever flown and tried to take the cheap route, like I did last weekend, you're going to get the quality you pay for. It is worth it. Go to rowack.com, find out for yourself.
I think Texas A&M could be one.
Okay.
Which is a little funny because we, myself included, have kind of, made fun of what's happening in Aggie land with their massive buyout. Finally doesn't make us look as bad. But I mean, quietly, they've got the 5th ranked recruiting class in the SEC right now. They've kind of got that new coaching swag that comes with hiring, a Mike Elko, who's, I think internally, a lot of people think is a really good coach. Mm-hmm. And it's just so different than what they've had previously. I'm curious to see how that works because they've got the resources, they have the assets, they have the NIL, and Elko's probably a better X's and O's coach than what has been there. So I think A&M has a chance to do that. I'm reaching a little bit.
Yeah,
I think I like Auburn's footing a little bit better than A&M's today, but I could see the path for A&M kind of figuring out how to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah. What about Florida?
They got to fire Billy Napier first.
Yeah, which is probably coming after this year, right? Probably.
I would think so. Sure. Yeah. G5 Billy.
Yeah. We look at that schedule and boy, I mean, they could get some momentum if they beat Miami and Texas A&M in the first in weeks 1 and 3 of the year. And then they have Samford in between those games and Mississippi State in Starkville. So
there's like a 6-game stretch though towards the end that is just insanely tough.
Yeah. Oh no, their last 5 games are Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State.
Yeah, they won't win any of those.
Yeah, unless you're way up high, you've got a big fall coming. What about Missouri?
I still don't know if I buy it, Brad. Yeah. I still don't know if I buy it. And it's totally unfair to everything they've done because I think what Eli Drinkwitz has done is actually respectable and impressive. It's just you're still Missouri at the end of the day, and until you consistently do it, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are skeptical about it.
Ole Miss. Nobody buys this long term, right? Because it's high school versus portal, and Ole Miss is Lane's trying to do at Ole Miss what Dion is trying to do at Colorado, and just build it through the portal. He's not going to have a top 5 SEC recruiting class out of high school.
No, I think they're 11th right now. Let me confirm that. Yeah, they have the 11th class. So, I mean, South Carolina is out recruiting them right now. I don't think so. I mean, it really feels like Ole Miss is all in. They are all in this year. And so I want to see what a reload looks like because they haven't really put themselves in a situation to reload through high school because of the timing. They'll be terrible for 2 or 3 years if they do that. So they've got to reload through the portal. So we finally get to see okay, can this actually work? I'm excited to see what they do this offseason, genuinely.
All right, now let's go to kind of the next tier of schools. Maybe South Carolina is in that mix, but I don't
think so.
It's a really hard sell. There are a group of schools like a Kentucky, a Mississippi State, a South Carolina, obviously Vanderbilt, Arkansas. I don't see how those teams consistently get to I think it's harder for those teams now with Texas and Oklahoma set to join and doing away with divisions. Divisional play at least gave a team like a South Carolina or a Missouri. There were years where a South Carolina or Missouri, before Georgia hired Kirby, where you could win that division with a 6-2, 5-3 record and go to the SEC championship game. That's just not happening now with the schedule.
Yeah, and it's also the way the conference was designed. It allowed for Kentucky to be this fun story under Stoops, but in reality, there was one good team in the East for like a massive chunk of like this fun run that Kentucky's been on, because it's been like a historical low for Tennessee and for Florida over the last 10 years. And so Kentucky's been able to take advantage of that. Good for them, but nobody's buying it. All of the former SEC East teams, with the exception of Georgia, are now they're going to be hurt by the fact of there's no conferences and y'all aren't going to get to play each other anymore. You're going to have to actually play some of the better teams in the conference from the former SEC West. And I think the SEC West teams like Auburn, like Ole Miss, like Mississippi State, I think they're going to benefit because they get to play the South Carolinas and Florida's a little bit more consistently now.
Yeah, like an Arkansas doesn't have to play every year Alabama and Texas A&M and LSU. It's not a given you're going to play. You're not going to play those teams every single year. But I still don't know. But you also have to recruit now against more teams from your region geographically that are now in your conference.
Yeah, so but some of those teams you mentioned, like Kentucky and Texas, aren't recruiting the same player.
Correct.
That's just not, both from a geography standpoint and a talent standpoint. Like they're not calling the same kids.
Right.
Who else did you mention? Vanderbilt.
Right.
Missouri, maybe they may try, and it seems like every class they're getting one or two of those guys. But as far as the volume, it's just
right. But your Arkansas and Missouri, they might be recruiting the same kid that Oklahoma's recruiting and Texas is recruiting. Texas A&M now recruiting against Texas. Those teams had the pull for a little while. Yeah, but we're in the SEC. Come compete in the SEC. That's different. And now they've all got that sort of same connection. So back to the original point after Zach tells you about our friends at MyBookie. Auburn's placement relative to all of those other teams that we just mentioned. We'll kind of reiterate how we feel about Auburn and where and the position it is set to take off to relative to those teams.
Yeah, MyBookie.ag, they've got an incredible sports book as well as a virtual casino. Look, there's always been those kind of, those boys trips where you're going to go this weekend to the casino, play slots, play some poker, hang out at some tables, but life gets in the way. And so you can do it from the comfort of your own home at mybookie.ag, their own virtual casino. They've got progressive slots with all sorts of different jackpots, as well as live dealer interaction. I mean, you can do it all from the comfort of your own home. So go to mybookie.ag, use promo code NEXTROUND, one word, NEXTROUND. When you sign up, you'll get access to some VIP perks, as well as some extra money to wager with. That's at mybookie.ag. Use promo code NEXTROUND.
All right. Where is Auburn among SEC teams in all-time wins, Zach?
Wow. I'll say fifth.
They were, well, yes, for 5 more days, they're fifth.
Okay.
They will be seventh when Oklahoma and Texas join the league.
Got it.
Wouldn't be that. I mean, they might be sixth. They might be one ahead of LSU if the last 3 years hadn't played out the way they played out. If a few more offensive tackles had been recruited, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. But that's where they are right now. We can see from the offensive and defensive line recruiting to the schools Auburn is battling on the recruiting trail right now, to the early success in 26, to the in-state success in 25 and 26. This matters, and you should pay attention to it as it puts Auburn in a position to be one of those top 4 or 5 teams in the league. You don't have to be one of the top 2 in the SEC. You don't have to overtake Georgia and Texas every single year in the league.
I also think this is important because there are other fan bases picking at Auburn fans for being excited about what's happening in recruiting. And it's like, yes, they're locking down the state. And then Alabama fans are saying, yeah, but Alabama's class is ranked higher. And it's like, that's fine. This really isn't about you, but that's fine that you want to include yourself in this. Auburn's next step in progressing to where Auburn football needs to be, or getting it back to where it was, it's not for it to be the best in the SEC. They need to be top 4 before they can kind of put themselves in that situation. And is Auburn doing enough this offseason to eventually be top 4 again? And the answer to that is yes, they are. They are doing enough. Now you need several years of this. I mean, look at what happened at Georgia. I mean, they recruited historic classes, and it took them seemingly like forever. Like it took longer than I thought it would, but it eventually works. Look at what Michigan did this past year. I mean, they were knocking on the door for forever. You love Michigan, Brad.
They
love Michigan. You got the Michigan M tattooed on your chest.
You just can't see it from my Rowack shirt.
That's right.
No, and they almost ran off Jim Harbaugh because they said he couldn't win the big game. But that's a great example. They recruited well enough their first 3-4 years to beat everybody but the big teams. They sure didn't lose games to teams that, they had more talent than.
Right.
And then they stuck with it and kept with the formula, recruited like 9 or 10 offensive linemen every year, and eventually got to the point to where they were beating those teams that they couldn't beat in their first 3, 4, 5 seasons. It takes a little bit of time, but there's a formula. And if you stick with the formula, it works. And all that to say, to kind of back up your point, you're seeing the formula at work at Auburn. It's just because Auburn is using the formula doesn't mean other schools won't, and doesn't mean they won't have some success. Mm-hmm. You just got to get a seat at the table. I'm big on get a seat at the table.
Right.
And then, one pass play, one interception or deflection, one missed tackle, one, makes the difference in a game here or a game there. But you got to get a seat at the table.
Gus was, they were consistently the 8th ranked class to the 11th or 12th ranked class, depending on where you looked. That was kind of his sweet spot. And every 4 years, lightning would strike. Now, one of them was his first season, sure. Mm-hmm. And then a few years later, when you get your quarterback figured out, then 2017 happened and you were so close. You had a shot. If folks stay healthy, I think that's a different story. But that's kind of where Auburn has been is, okay, can you get the rest of the roster right and then hope lightning strikes and you get your quarterback? I mean, it happened in 2010, obviously. Mm-hmm. To some extent, it happened in 2019. That team was probably better than is actually remembered. But all in all, it's like, okay, you just got to get in the spot where if lightning strikes at Auburn, you could do it. And Hugh Freeze and the staff, they're acquiring talent to where they're forcing the lightning to strike. They're putting lightning rods all over the place, saying like, all right, we're ready. We're ready for the storm. And I think they're 2 years out from something really, really cool if they keep this up.
Yep. So follow the process as it plays out. That's why this recruiting stuff, if you already follow it, you know why it's important and exciting to watch, and you recognize that it's different than it was even a couple of years ago. Right. And if you don't really follow it closely, well, maybe today lays out a few reasons why you should start.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
Yes, it does, Zach. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for subscribing, commenting, liking the video. And until next time, remember, everyone has vices. Yes, they do. Everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.